Do you want education through discussion? Do you think there's bias in the media? Has the political class let you down? Then join Sanity Check as they expose, inform, and enlighten through the new standard in talk radio. Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM, The Talker.
So as we're waiting to try to connect with Governor Johnson, you know, some of the other things, guys, about this whole presidential debate commission, the plaintiffs are 2012 presidential nominee Gary Johnson, Jim Gray, and Jill Stein of the Green Party. And the lawsuit challenging the exclusion of candidates from the presidential debate-sponsored debates is backed by Our America Initiative, and which is a nonprofit advocacy organization through the Fair Bates Project. We have talked for quite some time, and certainly our audience is well aware of the whole debate commission and the whole fraud, really, and I'm using the words of the League of Women Voters, perpetrating a fraud on the American public. But there's nothing like having the individual who is on the front lines of this and the reason pushing this forward. As we've mentioned before, and X, you have said maybe, perhaps, this is the single most important event for the 2016 presidential debate, is to allow qualified individuals, somebody like former Governor Gary Johnson of New Mexico, to be on that stage and allow his voice to be heard. Good morning, Governor. Great to have you on.
Lou, good to be with you. I'm in New York talking about this lawsuit, and it's very exciting, and it is a fraud perpetuated, I think, on the American public. You got 80% of Americans that want another choice, but have no idea why there isn't another choice, and at the forefront of that reason is the Presidential Debate Commission.
Now, This suit was filed September 29th, Tuesday, and just go through the process a little bit. How does it go? I mean, what are you expecting? What are you hearing from the lawyers? Maybe a little bit of a timeline on what we could expect, and if you win this lawsuit, I suspect that will probably be an appeal and all those things. But aside from all that, how does the process work?
Well, we are suing on the grounds of antitrust legislation. The notion that Republicans and Democrats have colluded here, they're a monopoly, and that they are excluding, in this case, in 2012, they're excluding two parties, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, that were on the ballot in enough states to actually mathematically be elected president of the United States. That's the criteria that we asked the court to consider. They, in 2012, they said that you had to be at 15% in the polls. Well, if you're not in the polls, how can? And that isn't to say that they actually did include us in polls, but I would ask everybody listening. Did you ever see a poll that included my name or Jill Stein's name as included with Barack Obama and Mitt Romney as the only four candidates that were possibly electable, mathematically speaking, meaning on the ballot in enough states to do that? Timeline-wise, we're considering the filing of the suit as a victory in and of itself. We think that the discovery phase of this lawsuit, which will start here very quickly, we think it's going to be, if nothing else, really entertaining nationwide, because the discovery will produce documents that both the Republicans and the Democrats have signed that's really pretty damning, that they outright do collude to exclude everyone else from this process. And, I think the entire country is going to be. I think it's going to be fascinating to see this all unfold, and of course it'll kind of dribble out. But I think that this lawsuit, as it moves forward, is going to garner more and more attention. Bruce Fein, the attorney that's heading this up, is really an accomplished attorney over his career in Washington, so they're not going to dismiss it on trivial grounds because Bruce Fein is behind it. I presented with Bruce in New York, and he said his real claim to fame to this point probably in his life was the bringing down of Nixon in Watergate. He served as deputy counsel for Reagan when he was in office, and he thinks this is the biggest thing that he has done in his life to change politics in America. So people ask me all the time, well, what are your chances of winning? Well, there's no chance of winning if you don't bring the suit.
Exactly.
And back to winning, we think that just by filing that we win, because we also believe that in this discovery phase, there are probably documents that have also been signed by the media to exclude any other voices or the promotion of any other voices. We don't know how this is going to play out. I mean, this is part of the lawsuit, and this is certainly the discovery process involved in the lawsuit.
And I think this will be eye-opening all in itself, just like you said. Perhaps maybe the media had signed certain documents. Recently, Gary, I interviewed the president of the League of Women Voters. And as you know, I think it was all the way back in 1988, they had actually put out a press statement saying that they're perpetrating a fraud on the American public, and they're still standing by those words. And one of my questions I've had, and I've posed this to many individuals when we try to explain what this is all about, I said, what would you think if 5 minutes before these presidential debates happen, that the League of Women Voters, the president of the League of Women Voters, was allowed to come on TV and say, listen, we are no longer participating in this event because they're perpetrating a fraud on you, the American public. And that in itself, I mean, can you imagine if the TV actually would have allowed that to happen? People would be saying, what is this all about?
Turn it off.
Yeah, they and what you're saying right now is through discovery, we might have our answers for that, why they haven't been on the TV 5 minutes prior to these presidential debates.
Well, right. A lot of questions might be answered, and a lot of people might be able to dot I's and cross T's. Me at the top of that list as to how this does function and how this, in ways that go completely unnoticed by everyone, manipulates the process.
You know, for those that might just be tuning in for the first time, we have former Governor Gary Johnson on the line with us from New Mexico. And certainly, Gary, I mean, for 8 years, I mean, you're certainly qualified to be on that stage. That's another thing that, you know, I think is very, very important, because people say, oh, you just can't have anybody on the stage. Well, I mean, you were on the Republican stage at one time. That seemed fine at the time. You were qualified for that. And yet you're, you know, somehow not qualified to participate in these events. And I certainly wanted to point that out, and some of the accomplishments that you did as when you were governor of New Mexico.
Well, you point out something that is really key to all this, is you can't have everyone on the debate stage, because, you know, there are hundreds of individuals that sign up to run for president of the United States. But the criteria that we're asking for is, if you're on the ballot in enough states to mathematically be elected. So I was on the ballot in 48 out of the 50 states. Jill Stein was on fewer ballots, but she was also capable of garnering the 270 electoral votes that it takes to get elected. So that's the criteria, the organization that goes behind accomplishing that. That in no way is a small task. And
exactly, to actually get on those, to get qualified for that many states. And I also want to point out, Governor Johnson, that you're talking about the same Jill Stein that, if I remember correctly, was handcuffed to a chair for hours at the Hofstra debate, which was the second presidential debate, which I'm sure, except for maybe this audience, might be hearing for the first time. Is that the same Jill Stein we're talking about?
I do believe so. There have been numerous, from the Green Party and also from the Libertarian Party, nominees that have been, in fact, arrested for actually going and
showing up,
demonstrating against the Presidential Debate Commission.
Gary, I know your time is short, but X, do you have any quick question for Governor Johnson or Michael?
I have a real quick one. Governor, do you think that the media is going to even allow this to be, if they're even going to bring this topic up, or are they going to just pretty much try and squash it?
Well, it may be. It may be that they'll certainly want to squash it, but I think because of the nature of the lawsuit and really the merits behind it, and the internet and you guys, I don't think they're going to be able to ignore it.
Very good.
We'll see.
And X, one quick question for Governor Johnson and.
Yeah, Gary, how long do you think the discovery period is going to take before we get a little bit of stuff out?
I do not know. These are questions that I've been asking lately, and right off the bat, of course, we're going to expect that they will move for dismissal on this, that, or the other, and dismissal usually hinges on no merit. Well, now I'm going to reiterate that Bruce Fein, a renowned Washington attorney, is filing this. So right off the bat, that triviality argument, I think, kind of goes out the window.
Governor Johnson, thanks so much for coming on today. I know you have a busy day ahead. I could keep you on for a whole hour, but I really do appreciate the time that you spent with us, and keep up the good fight. And we got your back as best we can. So thanks for coming on.
You all keep up the good fight too, and great being with you. Thank you.
You betcha, Gary. Thank you. There you go, guys. And we're going to take a break, and you listen to Sanity Check, and we'll be back.